Hello. That was a great talk, and again showed how many components are vital to ensure a functioning food system. Previous talk was about the bees. This talk is about soil. I'm Rob, one of the founders of Klim. Our mission is to scale up regenerative agriculture as quickly as possible. Reason, our food system is in crisis, as you all know. We are facing severe challenges related to climate, ever more frequent droughts, growing population reaching 8 billion this year, rising prices for fertilizers and other input, and also increasingly strict regulation. The solution to much of these challenges lies in our soil. Sadly, soil has degraded globally to an alarming degree. We have lost around 50% of the organic content in our soil carbon, over the last 100 years. And that is a huge problem because, as a consequence, we are releasing massive amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. We have so far released around 500 billion tons of CO2 since the beginning of modern agriculture. Thankfully, there's a solution. Regenerative agriculture is one of the most powerful tools to reverse that trend. It's a form of agriculture that restores soil health and does so by applying a range of regenerative principles, such as permanent coverage and deep-reaching penetration of the roots. The beauty is that you can reduce the susceptibility to crop loss due to droughts because humus acts as a sponge, actually helps you retain water much better. It also helps you as a farmer to reduce your dependency on input, nitrogen fertilizer, for example, and therefore reduce emissions. It improves biodiversity, comes with a whole lot of benefits, which is why we're all excited about it. It's not only what everybody talks about, the ability to sequester soil carbon, even though this is one of the major benefits of regenerative agriculture. With regenerative agriculture, we can reduce and remove CO2 from the atmosphere in a huge dimension. We can capture, in the most optimistic estimates, up to 11 billion tons of CO2 each year. So it's a very potent climate solution. If you hear about all these benefits of regenerative agriculture, you're probably wondering, why aren't all farmers doing it? And there's essentially three main barriers to adoption. One is lack of finance. The other is lack of know-how. And that is a bit unintuitive. You would imagine that farmers know what a cover crop or a catch crop is, but actually there's so many different combinations of seeds and crop rotations that you could implement it, that when it comes to actually applying these practices, many farmers need support. And thirdly, farmers are wishing for more recognition by the public, especially the consumer. Klim decided to address these challenges by working on two sides, on the farmer side and on the industry side. And we do so as the foundation by having developed the first digital companion for regenerative agriculture for farmers, which offers farmers all the tools they need to transition. It enables them to get access to personalized know-how, how to adopt regenerative practices. It enables them to document what they do and calculate and quantify the ecosystem services they generate. That's reduced CO2 emissions, captured and stored carbon, and also biodiversity benefits. It also enables farmers to exchange ideas with a community of farmers, which accelerates the learning curve. If you want to be successful in agriculture, you need to be farmer-centric. What does it mean? It doesn't only mean that you build a really useful, user-friendly product that is unbureaucratic and reduces the documentation effort the farmer has to do. It also means that you actually take into account the daily considerations of a farmer. For example, in our case, we enable farmers to start small with a part of their land and then increase the farm percentage that they put into transition, rather than forcing them to transition 100% of their farmland at the start, which might sound good, but in the end would reduce the adoption rates quite dramatically. It's also important that you do MRV, monitoring, reporting, verification, in a way that is actually accepted by a wide range of audiences. And that's why we as Klim have initiated the development of a new standard for MRV in Germany and Europe, together with several partners, where we make sure that we're actually using a scalable model, scientifically sound, to measure and model the amount of soil carbon that we can build up as a consequence of the transition. Our business model is primarily related to the food industry. We help the food industry to achieve their ambitious SBTs, science-based targets of reducing the emissions in their supply chain. 80+% of the emissions of the food production industry come from scope 3, from the supply chain. And if you want to achieve significant emission reductions, you cannot do it without addressing scope 3, without addressing agriculture. We help food companies to onboard their farmers and convert them to regenerative agriculture, go beyond the obvious and actually accelerate the transition, the regenerative transition. We make visible the transition speed and the achievements of the farmers so that the companies can actually report accurately against their SBTs. But of course, the voluntary carbon market is an attractive market for anyone operating within regenerative agriculture, and we are also now offering credits for companies that would like to work with carbon credits. We see fantastic adoption rates by the farmers. We've seen that actually all the work we did by working with farmers to develop our product, by having farmers involved in our product development process every week, pay off. We receive great feedback based on how simple the product is to use. My favorite quote has always been shockingly unbureaucratic from a German farmer. This is really something good to hear. And we also see that the farmers are very happy that we position them also in society as part of the climate solutions. And this way we have now well over 2,000 farmers on board, actually now over 20,000 hectares in active conversion, so that's not just land under management, and a fantastic rating in the App Store. Most importantly, of course, farmers actually transition. So our digital scalable version to scale up regenerative agriculture works. Farmers are downloading the app, they're learning how to actually start the transition, and they do transition. And at the same time, we see that more and more food companies are choosing to educate their consumers about this wonderful journey of the regenerative transition, which is something that not only consumers need to know and need to learn about in order to care, but also that's very important for farmers to feel recognized. It's one of the main incentives you can provide farmers to actually start the transition, because of course they know if the consumer is aware, if the consumer cares, they will ultimately at some point actually reward farmers for this transition. So anyone interested in joining us on our regenerative journey, please feel free to talk to me afterwards. We are very happy to talk with anyone interested, whether they're from the food industry, from the agriculture industry, or investors. Thank you.